What is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back here with some more Resident Evil gameplay for you. And today we'll be talking about the new Resident Evil Requiem gameplay that just got revealed today. As we see both Grace and Leon in action, not just in cutscenes as well as them meeting each other, but also their separation, how they play, other mechanics, as well as a few new details. So without further ado, let's jump right into this. And I'm just going to talk about the things that stood out the most for me, but let's get to the cutscenes they did show. And basically, it's when Leon saves Grace from the hag monster, and the hag basically met the Requiem. That thing just devoured that thing's head and exploded. And not saying that guarantees it's going to be dead, but yeah, it also maybe distills a theory that hag is ResidentEvilRequiem, because if it is, it's kind of a little bit underwhelming that it's Leon that takes care of it and not Grace, but who knows, maybe it'll get back up again. You never know, because creatures have been confirmed to mutate in this game. We also see how Grace and Leon meet each other, talk to each other, and basically not have too much time to stay each other, because unfortunately they are separated by this gate fence. But basically, I do want to point out, I did like Grace's voice actress a lot. She definitely plays a really good role of sounding like a very scared, terrified person, which is something you want for someone who's never really been in this type of situation before, but definitely someone who's going to be put through the ringer, no questions asked. But what's cool is that the thing that separates him is actually Gideon, who's actually hiding in the dark where Grace just originally came out of, and he has this device. We also see that he apparently has night vision goggles on as well. And if you see on his finger, he has a little snake motif, which there's a lot of speculation that he has a lot of inspirations from that whole snake thing. So it's really cool to see him just lurking in the dark. How long has he been stalking Grace? What does he really want? And is this going to be something where he becomes his own stalker creature, or maybe he just constantly mutates himself? We don't know, but the fact that he's been there the whole time, we didn't even realize it, gives a very creepy vibe there. We also see ultimately the scene where Leon gives his Requiem to Grace, basically with Grace having no weapon still at that point in the game to defend herself with something too. But keep in mind, this is something that doesn't have a lot of ammunition, so it does pack a punch, but you definitely got to use it when you absolutely need it. And they do show off using it in this little gameplay segment, but you see also Leon trying to look out for Grace, even though he can't be there, being separated by this gate. But nonetheless, we also see where Leon is going to go back to the segments that Grace was in, and Grace is basically going to go through the segments that Leon just been, which is kind of interesting, because I guess it kind of has that vibe of what you did with one character in that area will be different when you go back, depending on what you did. Maybe you leave some enemies, maybe you spare some enemies, which is definitely going to increase a lot of replayability, just because it seems like with the way this game is structured, you can go about things very differently, depending on, let's just say for sake of an example, if you're playing as Leon through the segment, you take out a lot of enemies. Well, then that leaves less enemies for Grace to deal with, and maybe that's what you want to do, because Leon is obviously the more overpowered protagonist here with his moveset and weaponry and experience, so maybe that's the way you go. Or maybe if you're Grace, you realize that you want more of the ammunition for Leon. Maybe you don't pick up as many things, or I don't know if that's the way it's going to be structured. One cool thing I'm really starting to like in this game, and we see it a lot in this game, but whether you're playing as Leon or Grace, is they've talked about it before, and I mentioned in an earlier video, is how the enemies seem to have their own personality based on what they were before they turned, and they seem to kind of act very different and unique compared to most enemies you normally encounter, and seeing them combine with each other is definitely something really interesting. By the way, I don't know if anyone really knows this, but Leon really is a lot buffer than he's ever been in his entire life. I mean, is he taking that Chris Redfield diet or training regimen? Because damn, I've never seen his biceps that big, but damn, he got big. I don't know. Maybe maybe Chris Redfield has been having some lessons with him outside of fighting bioterrorism. So who knows? But he's definitely bigger than he's ever been in his entire career here. But definitely, I know everyone's been loving the Leon bicep flex there. Now, hopefully he won't punch any boulders and hurt himself, but all joking aside. But Leon ultimately has a little fun here, because the enemy we saw at the last reveal, this big, gigantic, baby-looking thing, we actually see, it's kind of funny because we see it in the background eating an enemy, and there's like a shotgun there that you have to pick up, and you pick up right next to it, but obviously it alerts him, and you have a little segment where you're fighting this guy, and it's kind of interesting because he's a big enemy, but in such a tight, claustrophobic, spot here that it just kind of gives a sense of like, you don't want to get trapped in a tight corridor with this guy because you might not be able to get out, not unless you're going to go right through him. But I'm pretty sure that he's going to take a lot of your precious ammunition and resources nonetheless. They also have some interesting moments here where like you can climb up top and jump down from the top of him. How much of the environment he's able to destroy, because keep in mind, it's not just Leon that encounters him. Grace also encounters him too, so is there more than one? And maybe it's like a segment that I was talking about earlier where maybe if you take him out as Leon, you don't have to deal with him as Grace, but maybe there's more than one, or maybe there's at least one for both of them. I don't know, but it leaves the whole replayability a lot to be desired here, which way they go. But yeah, and he definitely is a someone you definitely don't want to have grabbing. He grabs you and bites you. You got to get him off of you. Use your axe here. So a lot of cool moments here. But once again, we're slowly seeing a few more enemies, but I still think there's a lot of things we haven't seen, which I think is good because I don't want to know too many things. But overall, we get more gameplay of Leon and Grace. As I said, for Grace is more, cautious. You don't have a lot of things to fight back. She does pick up a pistol later on in her gameplay segment, but once again, you don't have necessarily, like, I guess, the arsenal that Leon does. But one thing I do want to say with Grace is that you can, if you stagger some of the normal enemies, you can, I guess, it looks like push them back the way it seemed like. I see a few enemies, or like the prompt come up on the screen to push them back or do whatever you got to do. But so it's not like you're completely, you can't do anything other than like the weapons you have. So it is interesting to know. Obviously, it's not going to be like Leon kicking them into the wall where their head explodes and paints the whole wall red. But so far, I'm really interested. I think my biggest thing I take away from this, I'm just really interested. I mean, we've heard the director talk about it so many times. I'm just interested in how the styles clash when they're forced together. But seeing how it seems like you might go through segments that the other player went through, it makes it interesting how you might want to play that out. As I said before, Leon can obviously take a lot more damage more than likely, and he has a lot more weapons at his arsenal. Maybe you're more like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should leave some of the healing stuff for Grace, and maybe I should take out more enemies just to make it easier for her. Or maybe vice versa. You might be like, hey, with Grace, I'm not trying to take out and waste ammunition. Maybe I should save the ammunition for Leon. Who knows? Maybe it's not structured that way, or maybe you might have some areas, and obviously you're probably going to have some weapons. You may have to decide whether you want to pick them up or save them for the next person. Who knows? I'm just speculating, but obviously just trying to discover new things as well. It also shows a little bit of the attachments you can put on your weapons if you do find them out yourself. So that's definitely more of something you scavenge and find on site. But overall, we're a month away. We're kind of in that point right now where I feel like you don't really need to show too much more. I'll be honest, this kind of came out of a little bit of surprise. I've heard people speculate, are they going to possibly do a demo, now that we're a month away? At this point, I think I can live without it. We're already a month away. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just waiting for the game to release so we can finally play it and see what they have hidden, what they didn't show off, and is the game going to be satisfying, good, and what are the repercussions of this game, and what's the future for Resident Evil. But nonetheless, as I always like to say, that is my opinion. I want to hear your guys' opinion. How'd you feel about this whole new gameplay segment? Did it make you more invested in playing it from a gameplay perspective? I know obviously there's still a lot of things we don't know through story-wise, but let's be honest, I really don't want to know. I'd rather be surprised by it. But just from a gameplay perspective, did it invest you more, or do you still have your repercussions about it? Let me know down in the comment section down below. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully I see you guys back in the next one. Thanks, and I'll see you all later. Peace.